And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, when I was a kid, one of the games I really enjoyed was Stratego. Stratego is kind of, I must have played 100 plus games of Stratego. Really enjoyed it. My parents bought it for me, and I was like, the strategy in this game. Now, the strategy in Stratego is not great, right? And as I got older, I learned that I don't play Stratego as much anymore, but I'm always interested in keeping an eye on Stratego, and I was very intrigued when I saw this Waterloo Stratego, because what better way to take Stratego into the historical realm than to cover a battle that's been done by 7,000 other board games? But no matter, Waterloo certainly is an interesting battle, and this game has a ton of pieces. I mean, there are just lots and lots of pieces here as you recreate this famous battle. Can this be done and still maintain the Stratego name? Well, let's find out. Now, there are three basic ways to play Stratego Waterloo, and I'm going to talk mostly about the basic way. Just kind of as an FYI, if you play the advanced ways, there are some terrain tiles that are added to the board which do a couple things for the different pieces and specific things in a scenario. You're going to be playing the French versus the English. Each side has a pile of pieces, and in the basic game you're going to set most of them on the board, but you're going to keep 10 or more in reserve. And then on these pieces, if you look on the back, you can see what kind of piece that is. So this is a cavalry piece, and I can see here that this is a light cavalry and has a strength of 2. This is an infantry piece, which you can see, and this infantry has a strength of 3. Here we have artillery. Artillery is all pretty much the same. Here's another infantry piece, so you can see that there's two different infantry pieces here. We have the light infantry and the heavy infantry, but on the back, your opponent can only see that they are infantry. You also have various people moving around, including your marshals, and 2 of your cavalry are leaders, including, for example, here with the French, Napoleon himself. And if many of the scenarios, if the opponents capture Napoleon, the game is over. Now, if you look here, this is the back page of the rule book. This shows you the distribution. The French are slightly stronger than the Allies. However, on the side here, we have a time, and every turn we move this marker here. Once it gets to 1630, then each turn, the British player is going to be bringing in 2 Prussian units, which they're going to be able to bring onto the board. And that's going to certainly tilt the balance in their favor, so the French player has to beat them before that can happen. So players are going to be taking actions on their turn. You get 3 actions each turn. One of the actions can be moving a unit, and each unit's going to move differently. Cavalry can move as far as they want in a straight line. Cannons basically can shoot a certain distance away and hit things. Infantry, light infantry, and heavy infantry are going to move differently. Each one moves differently, and one of the problems that I would have with the game is I can never remember exactly how each piece moves, and there was like no little shortcut that told me, so I was constantly having to look up in the book to see how far the different ones move. Now, when you move and attack another piece, it's just like regular Stratego, but if you don't know what that means, if this piece attacks this one, we compare numbers, and the higher number wins, the lower number is removed from the board. If the 2 pieces that are attacking each other have the same military strength, at that point, you roll a die, and this die will tell you what color wins, so the French or the English, or what color is going to be forced to retreat, or this means you win and then you wildly go and attack the next person, even if it's somebody on your own side. So you have to be really careful when you hit someone with the same number. There's also some cards. These are for the standard game. Players will be drafting these cards at the beginning of the game. These can let you move, like, for example, artillery fire. I can move 1 of each unit. I can look at 4 of my opponent's pieces, which if they discover where Napoleon is or something, that's a pretty big deal. A +1 when I'm in combat. And so at the beginning of the basic game, each player is going to get 3 cards for their side. They're going to pick one of these, and this shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you don't want any of your opponent's pieces to be in that section, because if they get 2 pieces in that section, they have flanked you and you've lost the battle. What section do they need to get in? Well, you decide. Of course, you could heavily defend that section. Of course, they might know then that's what you're trying to do. So again, on your turn, you are going to move a unit. You're going to attack with a unit. So if you're next to someone else, you're basically attacking. You can attack someone next to you. You can fire an artillery unit. You can move a unit in reserve onto the board. So this always costs 1 action, and you'll move it into the last row. So it's a way to bring more pieces out there. Or if you have one of these cards, you can play a card for 1 action. And so that's kind of the basic rules of the game. Like I said, the rule book does come with some scenarios, and even if you play the regular game, when it's done, if the Napoleon's been defeated, the English cavalry can chase him back. And so that's basically how you play Waterloo Stratego. The first thing I have to say is that even though this game is called Stratego, and even though it follows some of the general principles of Stratego, this actually felt more like a Columbia block war game. And I know they are much more complex than this, but this felt close to a light war game where you could see what pieces your opponents were moving, but you weren't sure what strength they were. Now, combat was very simple. The higher number wins unless there's a tie, and then you roll the die. And I think if I was playing this game, I played different variations of the game. Basic game's okay, and the advanced game I like better. The expert game added too many little fiddly rules. And it works very well, but I have to be a little negative here. There's a few things I did not like. I did not necessarily like the tie die. Not tie die, but the dice that you use in case of a tie. It seemed random, although it's not a bad way to decide who wins in case of a tie. But then this whole you attack and then you continue attacking someone even if they're on your own team. Are these people all werewolves? Or do they like have infuriating rage? Also, heavy cavalry, every time they attack the piece and then they succeed, they take it out, you put a wound on them. Okay, well, first of all, that's kind of a cool little piece to put on someone, but that makes them -1, so the more they attack. But you can just remove them from the board and then put them down as another action. And that was kind of like, okay, so I have them over here and I can just pull them off the board. Ha ha ha, can't kill me, I'm coming back. I guess there's thematic basis behind that. I just couldn't see it. And also then this game desperately needs a reference card. Light cavalry, heavy cavalry, which ones how they moving? Light infantry, heavy infantry, which ones are which anyway? Who's my leader again? So reference cards here would have been super useful. That being said, all those things, I still like the game. Now I probably would have ranked it like an 8 otherwise because I think it's pretty neat stuff. But those things kind of bring it down. But still, there's that whole, okay, where did you put your flag, which is your opponent's leader? You're really trying to capture your opponent's leader because when you take out your opponent's leader, they lose an action, or in the case of Napoleon, 2 actions. Which, incidentally, the expert game says if you capture Napoleon, the game is over. Basic game says you lose 2 actions. You might as well have the game over because if I have 1 action and you have 3, you are going to destroy me. I may know this from experience. So overall, I thought the concept was good. It does not take a long time. Adding in the terrain and stuff is maybe a little too much, a little too many rules, but at the same time, this could be looked as kind of a bridge game. Like, hey, kid, you like Stratego? You want to try something a little bit more? And then teach them this, and then when they're done with this, they can go and play maybe more complex, strategic, tactical 2-player war games. It's possible. I definitely think that a lot of people are probably writing this off. They've seen it in the store and like, Stratego? But this is more than Stratego. Now, if you just like the simplicity of Stratego, yeah, you're probably not going to like this because this adds a good chunk of it. If you are looking for a hefty war game, you probably think this is too light. But I think this is kind of somewhere cool in between. Can be a gateway to bigger and cooler war games. Either way, it certainly isn't Stratego. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?